Hey, what's up everyone? So in this video, I'll show you how you can get started with TypeScript in React, and we'll cover three main topics. So I'll show you how you can add types to your blocks, how you can add types to the state, and also how you can pass blocks to styled components with also the types. So the easiest way to get started with a TypeScript and React is by making use of a template. And if you go to docs right here, and then you go to advanced guides, and then you scroll to static type checking right here. This is why we have a TypeScript description, how you can get started. So I'll scroll down to TypeScript. We have two ways. We have flow, and also we have TypeScript right here. And this is the command that you can use to easily get started with TypeScript if you are creating a new project. Okay, so you can run npx create react app, the name of the application, and then dash template, and then TypeScript. So this will install a template that is pre-configured with TypeScript. But if you are using an existing project and you want to start using TypeScript with it, then you need to configure TypeScript in a step-by-step manner by yourself. But in this case, I'll be assuming that you are creating a new project, and the easiest way to get started with TypeScript is by using this particular template, okay? So that you won't have to worry about Webpack and stuff like that and all that configuration. So once you do that, you'll get an app like this one right here. And you'll notice that now right here we have this tsconfig.json, and this is where all the TypeScript configuration is happening. So you won't need to worry about this configuration if you are just getting started, and if you use the template. Now in the SRC folder, we have several files, and you'll notice that now in TypeScript we are using either .ts file extension or .tsx. But you can also create a file which is just pure JavaScript and write JavaScript code in there. So you can gradually move from JavaScript to TypeScript if you want, because you can also write normal JavaScript code in TypeScript. So you can add app.js and write normal React and JavaScript code in there, and you can import it to any other file and use it, and it won't complain. And then if I come to components right here, you'll see that I added a button. So this is my own code that I have added right here. I created a folder called components, and I added a button.tsx, and I'm using styled components to style this button. So if you have never used a styled components before, it's very easy to get started. All you need to do is to install a styled components. So you can learn npm install styled components, and then you will also need to install the types for styled components. So if I bring this up, you'll see that I also installed the types for styled components right here. npm I -- save -dev at types stroke styled components, and this will install this as a developer dependency, so that we can be able to write types and work with TypeScript when using styled components. So at this point, I'm not actually using any types in styled components, but I'll show you that when we pass blocks to our button right here and dynamically display the styles, which will be awesome. So to get started, you just import styled from styled components, and then you can create any element, HTML element that you can think of. So right now I'm creating a button, so I'm saying let const styled button be equal to styled.button, and then I'm adding the normal CSS in here, and you can be able to nest stylings. So right here I'm just nesting a hover effect, and this is how you can create a button. And remember, right here we have some backticks, okay? And then now I can make use of this styled button down here. So I'm making use of it right here, styled button, show time, and yeah, that is it. And then in app.tsx, I'm bringing in my button right here, and I'm making use of it right here. And as you can see, I'm also creating a container in our app.tsx. So this is just to center everything that is in our app. To be specific, that is to center the button. And when I check what I have in my code, this is the button with the hover effect, and the styles are added and it's at the center. So that is how you can make use of styled components to begin with. So in case you're new here, my name is Charles. I'm a JavaScript developer and I create content around web development. If you like the content in this video, please remember to leave a thumbs up and also support my channel by subscribing. So now I want us to dynamically display the text right here using props. And for us to pass props, we want also to make sure that they are type safe, okay? And to do that, we will tell Typescript that this button is a functional component. So how we do that is by just including a full colon right here, and we can say react.fc. And now this will allow us to include some angle brackets right here, and we can pass an object directly like this, and we can include the different types of our props. So for now, let's say we want btn text to be a string. Now you'll see that when I save this file, our app.tsx right here will automatically comprehend. So when I hover over our button right here, you can see property btn text is missing type object, but is required in type this one. So it requires an object which will have btn text and then string. So we are not passing any props, and that is why it's complaining. So now right here we need to pass a btn text, and you can see it's automatically suggesting for us that we can pass btn text right here, which is really cool. And it's also detecting that it should be a string. So you can see the power of TypeScript happening right here. And now right here we can say show time. And then now when I save this one, you'll see that now it's happy, which is awesome. And we no longer see any errors. And an alternative of specifying the types for our props is by using an interface. So this is how we can create an interface. So I can say interface, and then I can call it a button, a props will be an object, and in here we can pass the different types. So I can just copy this btn text string. So actually I'll cut it and include it here. And now instead of passing an object like this, we can pass our button props. So I can say button props, and you can see it's working. And now we can be able to accept these props right here. So we can receive the props. I can destructure btn text from props, and I can dynamically display it in our show time. So now right here I can dynamically display btn text. Awesome. And you can see it's not complaining. And we can be able to pass multiple props right here. For example, we can pass maybe a boolean. We can say is published like that, and we say that this is a boolean. And when we do that, you'll see that our app right here will complain that we are not passing that particular property or prop. So right here, we can be able to now pass is published, and you can see it's suggesting right here. And we can set it to a boolean value. Maybe we can say is published is true, and now it's happy with that. Awesome. And then another cool thing is that if you want like this btn text to accept either string or boolean or any other type, you can use a pipe, which is an OR operator in TypeScript, and you can say this can accept either string or a number. And now to satisfy that, if you don't want to pass a string, you can also pass a number to this one. So now right here, if I say 89, you can see it's still happy with that, which is cool. So you can like pass multiple like this. You can pass a boolean. You can pass any other type. You can pass an object. So for example, let's say we want to pass a post to this one, you can use a full colon and you can make it to be an object. And let's say the post has an ID and the ID should be in form of a string. So you can see we can pass the different properties in here for this particular post. And now you can pass that post right here as a prop. You can say that our post to be equal to this. Now will be an object, and this object should have that property which is ID, and it should be a string. So we can say the ID is maybe anything right there. So you see, you can pass an object as a prop and you can check its type just like this. Also, you can create like an interface for this particular post. So right here you can separate it. You can say interface, and you set this one to be our post object, and you can include these properties right there. So I can just copy this ID and paste it here, and I can just remove this and replace it with our post. So now you can like list multiple properties for the post right here and include their types, and it won't complain. So yeah, you can do this. Also, you can make some of these to be optional. Okay, so sometimes it's not a must like you pass them. So for example, if I remove the post, it should complain. So let me remove the post right here, and right now it should complain that we don't have that post prop. So you can see our property post is missing. And to satisfy our needs, if we don't want to pass it, we can make it optional just by including a question mark right there. And now our app.tsx right here is happy. So yeah, that is like actually so cool. So we can make them optional and omit them in our app.tsx. And then let me return this to be a string of show time, just like that. Now another thing that you'll need to pass is actually a function. So to pass a function, you just name your function right here. Maybe we want a delete function, which we are passing as a prop from our app. And then now right here you can include an arrow function like this, and you specify whatever this function will return. If it doesn't return anything, you can just return void. Okay, so it won't like return anything. If it returns a number, you will specify that this function returns a number. If it returns an object, you will say that this function return an object with specific properties. Maybe it will have an ID of string, and so on and so forth. So most of the time you'll see that most of the functions will just return void. Okay, and then you can also specify the parameters that this function will contain. Maybe it will have an ID, and this ID will be a string. So you can specify those parameters are right here. Now you can see that our app.tsx is complaining. So we should like pass that function right here, which has this particular property ID, and then you can like make use of it. So for now, I won't go into that. Actually, we will do it later on when adding an on-click event to this button. So just know that you can do all this, and I can include a question mark to make this to be optional. So yeah, this is how you can pass different types to your props, and make sure that your props are type safe and so on. So right now, I want us to move on to the state, and I want us to add an on-click event to our button so that when we click it, it actually shows the time. So how will we do that? We will just come right here and import useState from React. So right here, I can import useState just like this way, and this will come from React. Actually, I want this one to be easier. I think show date will be much easier. So let's show the date instead of the time. So now we can specify the different piece of state for our button and for our app, and that is the date. So we want to make use of useState to set the date. So we can say const with this structure and set our prop to be date and set date for our method, just like that, and we'll set this to be a default string. So we can make use of useState and pass a default string right here. And automatically, our TypeScript will know that this date should be a string. So when I hover over it, you can see const date is a string, and we don't have to worry about it. So if we like include a number, let's say 0, and then hover over this one, it will automatically detect that the type of our date should be a number. And when you set date to be a different type, you'll see that these will actually complain. So let me show you an example. Let's actually add a function which will update our date. Okay, so how we can do that? We can say const $100, and now right here let's have our const current date to be equal to new date. Now what will happen is that this current date will give us our current date, but it will be in form of an object, which is like a date object. Okay, and now when we come right here and we call set date, so we say set date, and we invoke this and we pass our current date right here. So we say current date. It should complain that current date is a date, and let's see, argument of type date is not assignable to parameter of type string. Okay, so this is it. Your state is now like type safe when using TypeScript. You can't pass an object a string, and when we actually do this, React will throw an error, like it won't like process these in normal cases. And TypeScript helps us to catch this kind of errors. So we have to convert this current date, which is a date object, into a string, and we have a method for that. So right here we can say to date string like this, and we can invoke this one, and now this is a string and it no longer complains about it. So this is cool, and actually you can make it to like accept multiple stuff. For example, this date should be a string, but we can't pass a number, right? So if I pass 90, it should complain that this is a number. Argument of type number is not assignable to type string. But what if we want it to also accept a number? So what we can do, we can manually specify the types right here. So we can say this will accept a string, and also you can use the OR operator. It can accept a number, just like that. And now this should not complain. Look, it no longer complains about it. So if you want to specify the types, you can make use of these angle brackets and specify the types like this. Like in some cases, you might want it to have a value, and also you might want it to have null. So you can use like null like that. And then this will complain because you are no longer passing the number. So you can like pass null right here. So that should not complain. So yeah, you can specify different types by including angle bracket to your state like this and then specifying them. So in this case, we just want it to be a string. So I will remove this code right here. Most of the time you won't need it actually. And then right here I can just say our current date to be of type string. So I have to call to date string like this, and I invoke it, and this way we won't get an error. So now I can pass this function to our button component right here. So I can say a handle date like this to be equal to, I can include these brackets like this. It will return our handle date, and we invoke this one as well. And now you can see that this button is already complaining that this handle date is not acceptable as our plop. So we need to make sure that this button can accept handle date as a plop. So right here we can pass a handle date like this, handle date, and we say it's a full colon. And now this is a function which doesn't return anything, so it will return void. And now it should be happy with that. Look, it is now happy with our implementation. We are passing handle date to be this particular function handle_date, and we are calling it. So this is just a reference that we are passing to this particular function, so that on our button light here we can add an onClick event. So on my button light here, I can be able to accept handle_date now as a prop. So right here I'll accept handle_date as a prop, just like that, and I can make use of it right here. So I can now add an onClick event to this button, and I'll set it to be equal to handle_date. So this is just a reference, so we won't like call it right here. We are calling it in our app.tsx. Now when we click on this particular button, it should update our date right here to be our current date, and we can display that maybe in a heading right here. So I can include a H2, and let's display our date when we click the button. So I'll save that, and we can test out our React TypeScript application. So I'll come back to the browser, and when I click on show date, we actually see our date right there. So this is working, and we have made use of TypeScript when implementing this. Now the other thing that I want to show you is how you can pass props to our styled components. Okay, so in some cases we usually make use of props to dynamically display the styles. So for example, let's say we want to dynamically display the background, either remove the background or include it, depending on what type of a button we want. So we usually have these buttons which have outline and those which are filled. Okay, so we can change the background depending on our props. Okay, and I'll include a prop right here called variant. So maybe we can say variant, and this variant should be a string. So actually the best way to do this is to make sure that you start with the types for our button, so that it checks whether you are doing the correct thing. Okay, so you should like start here. We can accept a variant right here, which is a string, and we can make it to be compulsory actually, so that when someone is implementing or using this button in other places in the application, they make sure that they pass that particular variant. So now it's complaining right here that a property variant is missing from our button. So right here we can include now variant, and we satisfy this by making it to be a string. And for this one, let's say we want it to be outlined. Okay, so now we can be able to use this variant outlined to dynamically display the background of our button. So we can come back to the button component right here, and we can pass this prop to our styled button. So the thing is, we can come to our props right here. Let me minimize this one so that I have more spacing here. So I can also accept variant, and I can pass it as a prop to our styled button. So right here I can say variant like this will be equal to, and then I set it to variant. And when I do this, you'll see that our styled button is complaining that we are trying to pass variant to it as a prop, but that variant is not acceptable. So to satisfy this, we need to make styled button to accept some props, and we can actually do that right here. Just before the backtick, we can include the angle bracket, and then in here we can include these curly brackets, and we can pass the various props that this button can accept. So we can say it will accept a variant prop, and this variant prop should be a string, just like that. And now we can be able to make use of this variant prop in our stylings. So to read props in our styled components, we already have this backtick. So what we do, we usually use like this $sign and then the curly brackets, and now we can be able to read the props from here. So we will include an arrow function, and we can be able to destructure our props right here. So here we have props already, like we have access to props, but we can destructure variant. So I'll destructure variant, And the reason why we are including an arrow function is so that we can return a value. So right here, we can be able to return a value. But this time, we want it to be conditional. So right here, I can say variant like this, and we can perform a check. So is variant equal to outlined? So if variant is equals to outlined, then we want to not include the background color. So we can set the background to none, else we can make it to be filled. So we can include this background color inside a string like this, okay? So yeah, this is how we can like conditionally render the stylings depending on the props, and this is how we can check the type for the prop. If we expect the variant to be a number, now right here it should complain that we are trying to pass a string while it is accepting a number. So this is how you can like make sure that the props that you're passing to your styled components are type safe, okay? And then this is how you can conditionally render it. So when I save this, you'll see that now our button is outlined. So if I come back right here, it shouldn't have this background color. I think it hasn't updated, so let me refresh. And now look, it is now actually having an outline to it. And when I click, it's still working. And if you want to have now a filled button, you can pass a button without this particular variant. So I'll pass it that way, and maybe you can have another variant called contained. So this contained, you can style it specifically in the styled component the way you want. So I'll save that, but as long as it's not an outlined variant, you'll see that it will be filled. So we should have two buttons. One is a show date with an outline, the other one doesn't have an outline. So yeah, that is how you can like get started with React TypeScript, and there is more into TypeScript and React. There are more hooks and so on, but I think this is good enough for you to get started and learn more as you proceed. So I'll end this video at this point, and please remember to support my channel by subscribing, and also leave a like and comment below for YouTube algorithm to boost my video so that it can be seen by others. So please support my channel, okay? So I'll see you in the next one.